Science Journal for Kids and Teens presents What Made Woolly Mammoths Ice Age Icons? Adapted from the original peer-reviewed paper in the journal Current Biology, published on April 7, 2023. Research conducted by David Díaz del Molino, Mariana de Hasca, J. Camilo Chacón-Duque, and others from the Center for Paleogenetics in Sweden. See the full list of authors and their affiliations in the accompanying PDF. Read by Miranda Wilson. Abstract. What does it take to survive an ice age? Woolly mammoths are extinct today, but they thrived during the Late Pleistocene era. But what genetic adaptations separate woolly mammoths from their modern-day elephant relatives? To discover this, we analyzed the genomes of 23 woolly mammoths. This included one of the oldest woolly mammoth specimens ever discovered, 700,000 years old. We compared these to the genomes of living Asian and African elephants and looked for unique mutations in woolly mammoth genes. We found that woolly mammoths had changes in genes linked to hair growth and fat storage. These may have helped the woolly mammoth survive in its cold environment. The earliest woolly mammoths already had thick fur coats and large fat deposits, but these and other traits, like small ears, continued to evolve over time. Introduction. If you ever take a time machine back to the Pleistocene era, remember to pack a warm coat. This era lasted between 2.6 million years ago and 12,000 years ago, and had repeated glacial cycles. During these cycles, sheets of ice covered large parts of North America, Europe, and Asia. You might find it cold, but the animals that lived then had adaptations to the low temperatures. Take the woolly mammoth. They lived between 700,000 and 10,000 years ago. Woolly mammoths are related to modern-day Asian and African elephants. They share a common ancestor, but they looked quite different. Woolly mammoths had thick, dense fur and long tusks. How do we know what they look like? Well, people have discovered preserved mammoth bodies in the frozen ground in Siberia. Their teeth and tusks remains are so well preserved that they contain DNA scientists can study. We thought that clues to what makes woolly mammoths unique might lie in their genes. We decided to look for genetic mutations present in woolly mammoths, but not in elephants. Mutations unique to woolly mammoths may represent the genetic basis for their adaptations. Here, you can see Patricia Pechnerova and a mammoth tusk on Wrangel Island in the Arctic Ocean. Methods. We wanted to identify genetic changes that were common among all woolly mammoths and not only present in an individual mammoth. So, we needed a lot of mammoth specimens. We performed genome sequencing on the remains of 16 woolly mammoths. We also had the genomes of 7 previously studied woolly mammoths. We analyzed all 23 of the woolly mammoth genomes and compared them to the genomes of 28 modern-day Asian and African elephants. Most of the mammoths we analyzed lived and died within the past 100,000 years, but one specimen was much older. The woolly mammoth, nicknamed Chukotia, lived about 700,000 years ago. That makes it one of the oldest woolly mammoths ever discovered. So, we compared its genome to the younger mammoth genomes. By doing this, we hope to learn how woolly mammoths evolved and changed over time. Results. We found differences between woolly mammoths and modern-day elephants. Modern Asian elephants had gene mutations associated with brain, eye, and gut function. Woolly mammoths had gene mutations related to growing fur, sensing temperature, and storing fat. The Chukotia mammoth also had some of these gene mutations. There were genetic differences between our oldest specimen and the younger woolly mammoth specimens. The more recent woolly mammoths had mutations in genes related to ear size and further mutations related to growing hair. These were not present in Chukotka. Here in Figure 1, you can see genetic mutations discovered in extinct woolly mammoths on the left and modern-day Asian elephants on the right were associated with different characteristics. In the woolly mammoth, you can see mutations for hair growth, fat storage and energy use, and temperature sensing. In the elephant, you can see mutations for eye function and the brain and nervous system and digestion. Considering these results, why do you think woolly mammoths had unique genetic mutations related to the physical features listed in the figure? Discussion. In woolly mammoths, we found many mutations in genes associated with hair development or storing fat. We think mutations such as these were adaptations to the cold Pleistocene climate. Fluffier hair and extra fat deposits would have provided insulation. This would help keep the animals warm. One mutated gene in woolly mammoths is associated with unusually small ears in mice. Mammoths were about the same size as modern African elephants, but they had much smaller ears. Small ears lose less body heat than larger ears. Mammoths' small ears were likely another adaptation to help stay warm. We found differences between Chukotka's genome and more recent woolly mammoth genomes. So, woolly mammoths continued to evolve up until their extinction about 10,000 years ago. They probably developed fluffier coats and smaller ears over time. Most woolly mammoth populations went extinct about 10,000 years ago. However, the last population of woolly mammoths survived for another 6,000 years. They were isolated on Wrangel Island in Russia. This means that the final species extinction was 4,000 years ago. Modern animals that live in cold places have mutations in the same genes as woolly mammoths did. Polar bears and reindeer have genes that help them grow insulating fur and store fat. However, mammoths, polar bears, and reindeer did not inherit these traits from a shared ancestor. This is an example of convergent evolution in animals adapted to cold environments. Conclusion. Woolly mammoths have been extinct for thousands of years, but scientists have learned a lot about mammoth evolution from their DNA. Studying the remains of mammoths also gives us clues about what the world looked like hundreds of thousands of years ago. Find out what animals lived in your country 100,000 years ago. How were they adapted to the environment? Are they different from the animals common in your area today? Thank you for listening to this recording. Visit our website, sciencejournalforkids.org, for more free science teaching resources.